What's going on, Facebook and YouTube Live? Welcome to another episode of On Another Line. Right after this short intro, we're going to debunk some myths and talk about my fishing trip to Grayson. That the video will be posted tomorrow online. Caught 2 fish, but we'll get into it right after this intro.
Gotta get your arms way up in a cast and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a jig looming right. I bet you like what you feel. Step on the deck and give it a whirl. Hello and welcome to my world.
All right, guys, welcome back from that short intro again, guys. Want to thank you for joining this episode of On Another Line Live. We're going to talk about not only my fishing trip to Grayson yesterday on President's Day, which could be potentially the earliest I've ever caught a bass in my local area, which is February 21st. But we are now in Tuesday, as in 2/22/22. At, pretty crazy times. We'll never see this happen again in our lifetimes. If you're watching this, we'll never see it again, which is crazy to think about. But anyway, long story short, we're going to debunk some myths today, talking about some bass fishing things that I've learned over the years that you may think differently about, and we're going to get your opinion on them. See what we got going on here. Hey, Andrew. Yep. I got out yesterday, caught 2 fish on Grayson. We'll talk about that in just a second, man. It's super nice to be able to get out. But with that being said, a couple of things. Just first and foremost, got the old Do It Mold Poison Tail Jig in the mail the other day. You guys saw that on the video. You also saw in a previous video on YouTube that I take Permatex Gasket Maker RTV Red, so it's high temp, and I always fill in the place where the plug goes, and I use wire weed guards. So I have that done. This thing will be done and ready to pour tomorrow. I'm super excited for this jig to come out, and I'm going to show you guys. I'm going to create a video tomorrow about that. That'll be with the video that comes out on Thursday. Again, I have a goal of putting a video out on Mondays, lives on Tuesday, and a regular video on Thursday as well from hopefully all summer. You didn't see one yesterday just for the simple fact because I went fishing yesterday and I didn't have time to create a video, and I didn't have one queued up. You're going to see one tomorrow morning. You're going to see one on Thursday. Again, that's talking about the video tomorrow is going to be my fishing trip from Grayson, breaking it down. It's fairly lengthy. I find the first video I create a year is usually longer than it should be, so bear with that one. But with that being said, we'll get into that in just a second. What's happening, Mr. Green? You doing all right, Steven? Hope you guys are doing good up there in the West by God, Virginia. Anyway, back to the giveaway. I sent out everything out for the giveaway. Everybody but Fred Redfern should have either gotten their stuff now or should be getting close to getting their stuff. I know there was a couple people posted on social media today that they received the stuff. I know K-Flare Bassett got their stuff. Michael Dickerson got his stuff. So I'm hoping that hey, there we go. Comment right now. And I figured Randy would have got his Neds in the mail. Sent out some stickers with that stuff too. I want to thank you guys again. Fred, you'll be receiving yours in the next day or so. I shipped it out today. I was going to ship it out yesterday. It was a holiday. I was waiting on your response. Finally got your response for your address. That's coming in the mail. So, Fred, if you're out there watching, it's on its way. So, anyway, we're going to debunk some myths that I find that are hugely popular in the bass fishing world today, and that is trying to decipher all of the media that you see out there. Let's talk about the first one that I think is something that everybody is going to think this is crazy, but you always hear that in the fall of the season is always when you catch bigger bass, and in the spring during the spawn are the only 2 times to catch really big bass. And the reason that is because you hear people saying that fish stop biting in cold weather, or they go super deep, or they just don't feed like they should. Normally you always hear that bass are feeding up for the winter, meaning that people think that they go out and just gorge themselves. And I guess people think that it's hibernate. all winter, kind of like a bear, which is not the truth at all. Some research that I've done over the past 4 or 5 years, trying to figure out where bass go in the wintertime. I am the world's worst winter fisherman. I'll tell you that. One, because here in Ohio, it gets really too cold to fish, but doesn't get cold enough for ice. So that's kind of weird. So a lot of times the wind's blowing, wind chill's like in the teens, but it doesn't stay that long, cold that long, so we can't actually ice fish, but it's too cold to get your ice out on the water, if you will. So there is that. But that's not true at all. The research that I've done over the past 3 or 4 years trying to become a better fisherman states that what I've uncovered is that fish still bite and they still feed during the winter. Obviously, guys, they're not just going to feed up and they're not going to like hibernate like a bear for 3 months in the wintertime when it's cold. They do feed less often. According to the research that I've looked at, and again, this is not my research, this is true like wildlife biologist research that I've looked at, that if a fish whatever a fish eats in 70-degree water temperature, it actually eats 30 to 40% of that much to sustain itself all winter. So what does that mean? Well, does that mean that fish are biting just as often as they would in a 70-degree water temperature? No. That means that they're going to bite half as much or even a third as much as they would. They're going to feed that much or that less, about 70% less in the colder weather. But they're still having to eat. One of the major issues that people like myself have a hard time catching bass in the wintertime is that we look at a lot of vegetation, a lot of things that fish are usually around or around things that are, proliferate during the times in the summertime, whether that be grass or that be pads, or maybe that's some other type of vegetation that's in the water. Forage like prey fish are actually a lot more abundant in the summertime as well. So actually, it's not that the fish are stopped eating; is that they just make an actual transition from another spot where you're normally seeing them at to someplace where they can eat. And another thing that I have found, and it is no more evident than the fishing trip that I had yesterday at Grayson, is that in the wintertime, it's better to downsize your approach or downsize your presentation of baits to get bit more often than not. If you're going out hog hunting and you want to catch an absolute giant fish, sure, you have the opportunity to catch bigger fish on bigger baits. But one of the myths that we're going to talk about here in just a second is that, big baits doesn't always mean big fish. Usually when you're throwing big baits, sure, if you get bit, it's going to be a large fish because it's going to take a large fish to eat that bait. However, you can catch just as many and just as big a bass on a smaller profile bait, especially in the wintertime. Hey, Mark. Glad you guys got down there and done some hammering on Chickamauga. It's one of my favorite lakes around here. But the flood control lakes around here, man, are mud puddles as well. You guys will see that in the video that I'm going to post tomorrow. It wasn't like thick with mud. You've been in those lakes where it's just absolutely thick. It looks like you walk across it. It wasn't like that in Deer Creek, a place I fished most of the day yesterday. I had about a foot of visibility, but it was dingy visibility. It wasn't super gin clear. I could see my bait in about a foot of water. But I could just make out the silhouette of it. But it wasn't super, super muddy. So that's why I wasn't super, I didn't care to fish yesterday. I don't like fishing gin clear water, especially in my area, because my area is so overfished. It is absolutely crazy. I was at the tackle box there 2 weeks ago for the open house and had a conversation with a lot of people that are fishing here and around my area. I don't know why I like to fish so much. I don't know why the people in my area like to fish so much, because it's not like we live in a most amazing place to fish ever. We live in the armpit of America for bass fishing. It is literally one of the most terrible things on the planet to fish around here. And I don't know if you guys saw it. I was going to share it on my Facebook the other day, but I forgot. It came up on one of my memories. There was a reporter or somebody like myself, I would assume, asking KVD 2 questions. He said, Kevin, where's your favorite place to fish ever? And he thought about it for a second, and he was like, Lake St. Clair, no doubt. He said, I feel like you can go to Lake St. Clair any time of the year and catch fish. He said, you might not catch, giant fish all year long, but you can go somewhere and catch a fish on Lake St. Clair all year long if it's not frozen. And then the very next question was, Kevin, where's your least favorite place to fish? And he said immediately, without even thinking about it, the Ohio River. And that was just enough to solidify what I realized, is that I've realized this all my life, is that we live in a terrible place to fish. But the reason I like fishing around here, and guys, there are some absolute hammers that come out of this area. My buddy Brandon Klein is fishing the Toyota Series down on Gunnersville this weekend. We have Eric Moore from down around the Cincinnati area. He's Ohio River guy. He's fishing that same tournament down there, doing really well. Chris Malone, who owns Malone's boats down here in Ironton, won the actual championship for the Toyota Series 2 years ago down on Lake Cumberland. There's just a bunch of hammers around here, and I think the reason that is because you have to catch them around here. You really have to be good enough angler to find these fish, target it, and then catch them, which is crazy. What's up, Justin? Thanks for joining, buddy. No, man. I just ride around on my boat looking sexy in Apex gear. I mean, what can I say? So, one of the biggest myths that I find as a bass angler, and I thought about it for years too, bass just quit biting in the cold weather. That's not true, guys. If you can actually get out on the water and, brave the elements, maybe you don't live in Ohio. Maybe you live in Florida where it's 70 degrees all year round at least. That's like my dream. I've been thinking a lot. If I were given the opportunity to move any state, I don't know where I would go. I don't know. What's up, Mitch? Thanks for joining, man. Next Wednesday from first trip since August. Man, that's a long time. Lake Somerville, Texas. Dude, anywhere in Texas is got to be a hammer. I hope you go down there and absolutely smash them, man. Guys, why Mark's on here. Affiliate of the show, obviously, apexfishingapparel.com. Go over there, check it out. Mark has got some really cool designs coming out daily. They're actually, correct me if I'm wrong, Mark, but you guys are going to be at the Indianapolis Boat Show again this weekend, right? I know you were there last weekend, but I thought I saw a post that you guys are going to be back there this weekend. You can go get your hands on these things. If you live in the area, definitely go check that out and tell them that I sent you. It's not going to do any good for you, but maybe it'll smack you in the face or something. It's like, well, a guy. Anyway, apexfishingapparel.com. You can check it out, dude. And I'm telling you guys, I'm not saying it because, Mark's one of my buddies. I think he's got a good thing going on. He's got a lot of really cool designs. His clothing fits really well and is very comfortable on the water. Mark, I don't know if you have any of these or not. You may have some of these, but you need to come out with the fishing shirt with a hood on it, bro. That's where it's at. What's up, Chuck? How you doing today, buddy? You're right. Fish have to eat, Mark. Appreciate that. There we go. Indianapolis Boat Show. Go check it out. Man, I fished the Kanawha a bunch. I love it, actually. I like fishing Kanawha. I like fishing that pool way better than our pool, which is weird. The Gallipolis pool there. There's one spot on the Kanawha River that Kyle and I stumbled upon. Golly, I don't know how long ago it's been. 8 years ago, probably. Put in at the Gallipolis City Ramp with the Lawrence County Bass Club. Ran from Gallipolis up the Kanawha all the way to the dam there and fished around the dam. It was so foggy when we got there. We were literally ended up like 8 feet, 20 feet from the dam, and had a guy like running down the dam. Was like, "Hey, guy, you guys can't be in this close." And we were like, "We really don't even know where we're at." So when the fog finally lifted, man, we were uber close, and we were idiots. So I'm glad that guy come down there, and he was kind of a butthole to us, which he deserved to be, because we were like in danger. I'm in danger mode. Shots fired. Shots fired. Yeah, man. I'm just giving you a hard time. But like I said, guys, go over and check out apexfishingapparel.com. If you're in the Indianapolis area, go over and check them out firsthand. You will not be disappointed. So here's the thing, Mark. Apparently, your marketing strategy is working, because right there goes to show what you've been posting is working. Sweet, man. That's good stuff. I'm sorry. No, I'm not. Mark's wife's rear end's been seen from here to Timbuktu, which, whatever, man, it's working for you. Like I said, I'm nothing but love, brother. I hope you go out there and smash it. I hope. Like I said, I'm not being like, I'm not paid to tell you this, guys. It's really good stuff. Go check it out. You won't be, if you guys liked 5x3 back in the day before that dipshit ruined it for everything, go over and check out Apex because he's got a lot of the same stuff. Another thing is, I don't know if you guys know this or not, but I did post a new OnAnotherLine shirt on Amazon. The only problem with that is they're fairly expensive. They're $25 for a short sleeve. It's got a new "Keeping It Real" design on the back of it. Got a 1.5 with some words that say "Keeping It Real" on the back of it, and then REEL, not the real REAL. It says REEL. You can find that searching Amazon. A lot of collars available. It's Prime shipped, so 2-day shipping if you have Prime. You order it, and like literally 2 days later, it's your house. They're basically custom made one at a time, and I don't have any here. I actually have one on order. I'll probably have it for the Classic if you guys are gonna be down and I'll see it. Dale Hollow, man. So I got to get down there and fish with you guys. I've really had a hard time thinking about what I wanted to fish this year. I was going to fish the Mountain Division with you guys down there. I'd love to come down and fish with you guys, but I can't I hate the fact that I have to work during this time, during the winter and spring, and I would never get anywhere to fish until real late Friday because I always have to work on Fridays. So driving to Dale Hollow and places like that, especially down in Cherokee, would suck because I'd have a 6-hour drive and then have to just get a couple hours sleep, fish for a day, and then come home, which is why I'm kind of leery about doing that. And it's I thought about fishing the Michigan BFL because me and Kyle have a lot of fun doing that. I go stay at his house Friday night. We drive up, fish, come back. I stay at his house, which splits the trip up a little bit. And then I don't know if I'm going to fish any big tournaments this year. I said it last year that I was going to go into it full blast this year, but I think that this year is going to be the year that I really have to ramp up production on my YouTube channel, and I just can't do that fishing giant tournaments because I fish as a co-angler. A lot of times boaters are really leery about you adding cameras to their boat because they don't want to give their spots up, which I get. I don't care if you guys know where I fish because a lot of places I fish sucks. What kind of shaky head do I throw? I assume you mean the head. I throw a custom poured shaky head that I pour myself with a do it mold. It's called a Shake It. I think it's not called a shaky head. It's just called a Shake It jig. I like a 1/4 ounce myself with a screw lock. I wish I had one here. I do have one actually. Hold on one second. All right, and I'm back. So it's gonna be really tough for you to see this, and this is a terrible pour. That's why it's still sitting over there. This is a 1/4 ounce do it mold Shake It jig that I pour myself. It is lead. I like the screw lock here. You can screw the bait up on here, and then your hook text poses here to keep it nice and flat. The reason I like this as opposed to anything else, one, I can pour these things for pennies on the dollar. These things are about $2 a piece if you buy them. My favorite ones that you can buy are actually made by Buckeye, I believe. They're called spot removers, and they have a flat spot here on the back. I like those a lot. However, the reason I like pouring my own shaky heads, you can tell this hook on this thing is massive. I put a 5/0 hook in my shaky heads. And I do that because I like the bigger hook because I feel like I've caught 5-inch bass on this hook. They're going to get it in their mouth. It gives you more of an opportunity to hook a fish with that 5/0. You can pour these anywhere from a 3/0, 4/0, 5/0. My favorite is using a 5/0. Gives you a lot longer hook. Gives you a lot better chance to get a fish in the boat because they're going to get this hook deeper in their mouth before you set the hook, being a finesse topic. So there it is. Again, that's a terrible pour. There's a lot of flashing around it. That's why it's still sitting over there. It's not something I use. I could make it work if I wanted to, but you can see that screw lock on there. You screw your the bait on there, and then expose your hook on the hook, and it's weedless, and you're good to go. Yeah, Andrew, I'd love to be able to take every Fridays off, but being a high school teacher, they frown upon me taking days off usually when they give me 3 months off in the summer, which I can't say that I blame them, but it's really tough for me to take days off. Favorite chatterbait trailer? Man, I've been throwing the Zaco. I think it's Gary Yamamoto. Let's see. But the thing about it is, I want you to understand that I am terrible at fishing a chatterbait. So let's just share my screen here, and I'll show you, which is going to be weird because you're going to see my face twice for just a second. Actually, I think I can share a. There we go. All right, so you guys are seeing it now here. This is the Yamamoto 4-inch. It's Zaco. Not sure what it is. One of my favorites here. I cut this thing down a little bit. I think it's too big from the factory, but I like this actual collar right here on a, the hugely popular fire crawl collar. This is one of my favorite collars here. There's a ton of different collars that we can see or we can find here. There's literally hundreds of different collars. One of the things that I will tell you though, going into this situation, that this is one of my favorite trailers. But I literally, that's the one, watermelon, copper, orange, red laminate is my favorite for the fire crawl. But one of the things that I have to tell you guys about that is that I don't know if you guys are seeing that or not. I think you saw it. Yeah, so you did. So anyway, that's my favorite chatterbait trailer. But here's what I'm going to tell you. I throw a chatterbait a lot. I get bit very little on a chatterbait. I don't know what it is. I know that you're supposed to fish a chatterbait around grass and things. We don't have a lot of grass in our area. I've saw some of the biggest fish that I've been around caught for, not huge, but I think the biggest fish I've ever seen come on a chatterbait was about a 4.5 pounder that came out of Yatesville that Kyle caught back when the chatterbait very first came out, like 5-6 years ago. He caught one out of Grayson this time of year, or I'm sorry, Yatesville this time of year. But I think I have to do something different on my chatterbait trailer. But that's what I'm throwing right now. What are you guys throwing? Maybe that's why I'm not catching fish. I think it may be too big. I see a lot of people throwing just a paddle tail swim bait. I saw that Ryan Salzman on TikTok today was showing his paddle tail trailer for his chatterbaits, and it was just like a 3-inch paddle tail swim bait that was made by 6 Cents. I don't think it was the Divine swim bait, but whatever it was, he had a absolute pile of them that they just sent him. Yeah, so Aaron, I think that's where I'm going to start going, is a smaller swim bait. I feel like something with a smaller profile, like a let's see, I don't know. Like my favorite is the Easy. I think it's called an Easy Shiner. Is a really good swim bait that I really like. It's really thin. That's made by Keytech or Kitech, however you want to say it. I really like that swim bait a lot. Might have to try that. May ended up having to try to pour my own. You guys are going to see videos coming out very soon of me pouring my own soft plastic, starting with the Cinco. That's coming out very soon. I've actually been working on my garage, getting it presentable. I've let everything come down around my ears in my garage because I've been so busy with fishing and things. But I've spent the last week cleaning that up and making a spot out there where I can make some baits. You guys will be seeing that very, very soon. Yeah, so are you talking about the shaky head, or are you probably talking about the chatterbait? Catch a lot of them on there, but man, I tell you what, you can watch pros and you can watch local Joes absolutely hammer them big old giant bass on, a chatterbait. I personally cannot tell the difference between a $7 Z-Man chatterbait and a $15 jackhammer. I know that the blade has different action because of the small split or the small swivel that you have there, but the hook's supposed to be better and things, but I personally in the water can't tell the difference. I've actually caught more fish on, I don't know what it's actually called because I don't have it here in front of me, but I think it's called let me see if I can find it. It was called, pretty sure Strike King made it, and it was called a Rage Blade. But the Rage Blade that I caught the most fish on was, I swear I think it was called a Naked Rage Blade, and the blade was clear. So take that for what it's worth. Here, I'll share my screen here. This is the Rage Blade, and I've caught more fish per times out on this bait right here, not this this particular color. If I could talk, the one that I was throwing was actually, it was the white one. It was this one right here. But notice it has that little split twin tail there. The profile of the trailer that comes on this thing is a lot smaller. The fish I caught were actually really small, except for I caught like an absolute hammer of a hybrid on Grayson Lake last year. It's actually 2020, I think. It was an absolute massive thing. It was like 10 pounds on that thing. Literally about broke it out of my hands. It was pretty crazy. Yeah, so like I said, I hear there's a difference. I think the jackhammer has a lot more vibration in the water to it. But again, me being a person that I don't throw it as often. If I picked it up as often as I picked up a jig, I could probably see where I could catch more fish on it. I just don't feel comfortable in it with it. And it's kind of like my my hate for the whopper plopper. If I threw it more often, I would probably get bit, and I would probably, better my it would be more confidence with that bait, but I just don't throw it enough. So there may be something to that too, Herb. I'm not sure. There's definitely something different about it. Another thing that I've never really tried is throwing the Strike King Thunder Cricket, which a lot of people throw. You hardly see very many people throwing the Thunder Cricket as opposed to the jackhammer, and I think that's because there's been a lot more people throwing the jackhammer. Matter of fact, being a custom bait manufacturer myself, you guys know that I pour a lot of stuff. This Poison Tail Jig right here from Do It Molds, again, is something that I picked up, and I'm really excited. You can see that if you guys are just not joining, you can see that I put the silicone in there, the RTV silicone, so I can use wire weed guards like I do the rest of my molds. But with that jig head, you're supposed to be able to make a chatterbait. However, I have quickly learned through research online that if you use the word chatterbait on something that you're making, that Z-Man will come after you. Like, it is copywritten or copyrighted the name chatterbait. The way that the chatterbait is made is copywritten. And literally, if you were to put baits and blades on these things yourself, you're breaking the law, which is nuts to me. Crazy. Man, it's crazy. However, I get it. But there's so many people out there making things that look similar. Like all the 1.5 crankbaits out on the market right now is crazy. There's hundreds of different companies making them. You can get online, make your own baits and stuff. However, you use the chatterbait name, and you are going to get a cease and desist letter from Z-Man. So, Justin, that's what I hear, man. I've thrown that thing until my arms fell off. I threw it in places where I should have just absolutely got clobbered. I threw it in the inlets of Lake St. Clair, which is one of the best smallmouth places on the planet. You can literally, I swear, throw a bare hook underneath a dock in one of the inlets in Lake St. Clair and catch a largemouth. I threw it for a long time, one morning and one evening in inlets trying to catch a largemouth on it. Couldn't get it done. I've thrown it in my area. I've thrown a ton of different baits. I'm just going to have to either suck it up or, not throw it at all, or learn how to throw them. Stephen Chase, who is always on my show here, buddy of mine, he caught almost an 11-pounder down in Chickamauga there a couple years ago on a plopper. So I know they work, but just confidence for me, not having it. Just not for me. So again, we talked about the fish stop biting in cold weather. That is not true. So let's look at something else that's a myth that a lot of people kind of get into the situation of believing, and that is that red hooks or red things on a bait mimic or trick fish into thinking that they're eating something that's bleeding, and that is absolutely a fallacy. And the reason I say that is that over the last couple of years, I've done some research on why bass like red baits or orange baits in the spring a lot of times. The jackhammer is a major player in the springtime in the fire crawl collar. You can't really find them anywhere unless they couldn't a couple years ago. The tackle box has hundreds of them now. Frit side 5 in a red crawl collar. Spro makes a really cool one. Rattle traps in a red collar or an orange collar. There's like I'm trying to think of the name of the collar that everybody calls it. Rayburn Red, I think is what it's called. And I wanted to understand why fish are actually more apt to bite something red, not only in the spring, but anytime during the year, because I've caught some of the biggest bass of my life on something that's red. I was throwing a $1 red spinnerbait that I bought at Walmart about 10 years ago at Yatesville. And literally, me and Kyle were going and buying these things by the droves because they were literally on a bottom shelf and they were stacked in there just as tight as you can get them on a Walmart shelf. And they were $1 a piece, and they had 2 willow leaf blades, and they had a really nice hook on them and a skirt, and you can buy them for $1 a piece. Me being a custom bait manufacturer, I could tell you without a shadow of a doubt, I couldn't even make them for that cost. So we were buying them, and they only had 2 collars. They had white. I had 3 collars: white, chartreuse, and red, and they were all solid collars. And I was finding that I was catching way more and bigger fish on the red, and that was all times during the year, which was really crazy. So over the past couple of years, I like to try to put my money where my mouth is, really, and try to figure out why these fish bite these things. So according to my research, and again, this is wildlife biologist, this is not me just making an educated guess here. This is stuff that I've looked at, is that not only can fish discern the collar red in their visual spectrum, they can also differentiate between the different collars or different shades of red. So if you're throwing a dark red versus a really bright red, the fish, according to wildlife biologists, can discern the differentiation. They can differentiate between those 2 collars, and that absolutely blows my mind. So, we're taught to believe that, especially in deeper water, fish have a harder time deciphering different collars because there's less light available in those deeper water, which is true. I do believe that the deeper the water, the less light that's going to, permeate that water and get to the bottoms of the depths. But fish are acclimated to that stuff. They see a lot differently than we do. So when I think about red, when I first started fishing, I thought this was true. They strike red, or you see a fish, a lure that has red hooks on it, that's got to imitate a bleeding bait fish. And a lot of times you'll get on the package will say bleeding bait fish or bleeding bait hooks or whatever. And that's just a marketing ploy, guys. From my research and my research alone, take that for what it is. I'm not a wildlife biologist. I don't claim to be. I also don't claim to be a pro in any, facet of fishing. But the research that I've done allows me to understand that fish can see the color red really well. And they can also see different shades of red, which allows you as a fisherman to have a lot more detail or depth to go through your actual arsenal. So when you're throwing an orange bait versus a red bait to a fish, those are two different collars, which is amazing to me. For example, just the other day I was out not just the other day now, I guess it's been New Year's Eve. We were fishing Yatesville Lake for a tournament out there, and that was the last time I've been fishing other than yesterday. I was throwing a Rayburn Red crankbait, and I was getting bit, and I switched up to an orange bait just to see if I can get bit by a bigger fish. And I threw it literally until my arm fell off, and I actually never got bit on that bait. Same bait, same crankbait, different collar. So we went back, we fished one bank. I caught 4 or 5 small dinks on it, came back up that bank, fishing the orange crawl or the orange crankbait, same banks or same company, same bait, never got bit, tied back on the red crankbait, the Rayburn Red crankbait, and went back down the bank and caught 3 more dinks. So that solidified for me the research that I've done that was true, that fish can discern the differentiation between different colors of reds and oranges. And that's very handy for me to understand as a fisherman, because I know now that a red crankbait is not a red crankbait. They're not all the same, which is pretty amazing stuff to understand. Yeah, Andrew, I'm with you. I'd rather throw a buzz bait, but I think my all-time favorite topwater bait is going to be some sort of popper, like a Rapala popper, or even, man, I'm going to go old school, and the Rebel poppers are really good. If you change the hooks on a Rebel popper, you got an absolute phenomenal rig, man. I love it. Throwing that stuff on like 65-pound braid. I did a video the other day about talking about different types of lines to choose. There's a video online. I don't know where it's at. I'm not ragging the guy. I'm not interested in doing that. But most braid on the planet floats. This guy says that braid doesn't. It actually sinks. And I don't know what kind of braid he's throwing, but I did run across some braid the other day that does apparently sink. And I'm hoping that it does, for the simple fact is my dad was looking for a way to, he wanted some new line on his catfish rods. He likes to pay lake fish. Him and his buddy John Stigler go out pay laking about once a week, different pay lakes, and he was looking for some new line. I used to use just cheap 20-pound clear blue string or clear string, and I used to like it a lot when I was pay laking and stuff. But he just wasn't confident in it, so he wanted to use braid. Well, braid floats, and at any time a windy day on braid, if you were using a top bobber or whatever catfishing, your line goes crazy and it pulls your bait all over the water, and it's going to be in somebody else's line before you know it. According to what I've done some research, the Suffix, I think it's 832 braid, actually does sink after a couple trips out, which I don't know. Yeah, Mark, that is number 2 on my list of Azure Spook. I have bought some of the big Zara spooks to go to Lake Fork, which is counting down. I don't even know how many days. I think it's 54 days. I'll be on my way to Lake Fork, which is, man, like, it is getting closer and getting closer and getting closer. Super pumped up being able to go out there. I'm super thankful to be able to do that. Quick shout out to you guys that have subscribed to my YouTube channel in the last month. I've absolutely had the craziest month I've ever had as a YouTube content creator, which is amazing stuff. I'm going to check really quick here just to make sure that I'm telling you the truth. As of today, 20,700 views this month, which is amazing. 1.2 thousand hours of watch time, which is crazy. That's nuts. That's 1,200 hours in this month that my YouTube channel has been watched. And the subscriber change as of just now is 111 for the month, which, dude, I am super pumped up about that. Thank you guys for that. I'm really happy about that. I'm hoping the ramp video's up. I got that 4,000 subscriber goal, guys. Again, that is a hard goal. If I don't get that 4,000 subscriber, I'm out. You'll see me on the lake. That's it. I'm not going to create any more videos. It takes a ton of time. I will miss it 100%, but fishing is my passion. That's where I'm going to be, but I am on my way, well on my way. So right now, if I go to my YouTube channel, if I can get there, I'll just tell you how many I have to have for the coming months. So right now, I've had, again, 111 subscribers in the last 28 days, which is amazing. That beats my all-time record for sure. So now I'm at 3,329 subscribers. $671, and there's roughly 10 months left in the year, so that's going to break down to 67.1 subscribers a month. If I can get this 100 average, rolling, we're going to hit that thing in 5-6 months, which is amazing. So thank you guys out there for that. What's up, Matthew? The catfish slayer himself. What kind of line you use for your catfish reels, man? I'm interested. True story. Drop your comment below what kind of line you use. Yeah, I've been watching it. I've been watching really close, zooming in, checking out baits. It's going to be a totally different lake when we're there here in 50 days, but man, they are absolutely crushing them, catching some big ones. Hey, Paul, thanks for joining, man. Yeah, frog is a great topwater bait too. In my area here in Ohio and northern Kentucky, There's not a lot of grass, very few lily pads. Am I saying that you can't catch fish on a frog without that stuff? No, I've done that, but I just find myself throwing different things like the pop or the popper, and I like the spook, like Mark was talking about a second ago. Mitch, I hope you're right, buddy. I'm traveling 16 hours roughly to get there. It's going to be a once in a lifetime opportunity for me. Maybe I might be back. I'm flying down to, if you guys don't know, I'm flying down to, let's see, where is it? Huntsville, Alabama, where my buddy Dusty Smith is residing right now. He's from this area, but works in down around that area, Decatur, Alabama. And I'm flying down to his house. He's picking me up at Huntsville. That's on Easter Sunday. I'm flying from here to there. I'm meeting up with him a week before that, giving him my gear so he can take it back home with him. That way, when I fly down there, I don't have to fly with my gear, because it would definitely restrict the amount of rods I can take. And you guys know me, I'm going to pack like 10, 12 rods. I may not take them out on the boat every day, but I want to be prepared going to a place like that. Then we're driving out there, which is not too far from Alabama. It's about 8 hours, which is a more manageable chunk of time to deal with. We're going to fish Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, half of Thursday, and drive home. And we're driving from Giannis, Texas, which is Lake Fork there, all the way home to Ohio. And there's a lot of things that have to happen here. I'm not expecting to catch a 10-pound bass. I would love to. I would love to catch a double-digit bass, but not knowing the lake and just going out there fishing for 3.5 days, I'm not looking. I will not consider it a non-successful trip if we don't catch a double-digit. But I do want to catch my PB bass, which is a little over 6.5 pounds. And I feel like that place is absolutely loaded with bass that big, so it could potentially happen, and I'm super pumped up about that. However, on the way home, some of the things that have to happen is that we have to drive from Giannis, Texas to Ohio before, and pray to God nothing happens on the way home, because we're going to get home. If we leave at noon, probably, it depends on how good the fish are biting. We might leave later than that, but if we leave at noon on Thursday, 12 hours from there is going to be midnight. So you're looking at 6 hours, or about 4 hours from there. So it's going to be 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning on Friday, if that's at the earliest. We're getting back at 5 o'clock in the morning on Friday. And then I'm going to have to get my boat and everything ready and my gear all switched up, because I'm fishing the Casting for Kids tournament on Yatesville with 156 boats, I think, on Saturday morning, which is going to be a crazy week of fishing, but I am super pumped up about it. Andrew, I hope so. I appreciate it, man. So there it is. The Suffix 832, does it sink? That's the next question I have. Dude, that's another great deal in the wintertime, is a blade bait if they're chasing. Down there on Chick, it's a little different because it's a little warmer down there normally in the Tennessee River, which is crazy. What part of Chick did you catch them on, man? Did you catch them like up towards Dayton, or were you guys down? I know we were talking about it on the show a few weeks ago, down towards the power plant. Where were you at? It's cool, man. Like I said, if it sinks, I think you're right. I think braid is where it's at. All right. So, man, appreciate it. Thanks for the help. That's what this is all about. So I'm glad it does sink, because if it doesn't sink, you're in for a world time. Harrison Bay. I don't know exactly where that's at. I'll have to look on a map. That's cool though. I'm glad you guys caught him. Next, big baits equal big bass. Is this true? Sure. You throw a giant bait, like a big giant glide bait, your odds of catching a really big fish are boosted a bunch. However, throwing a giant bait like that is kind of like musky fishing. It's like a giant fish on a giant glide bait or on a giant swim bait, in my opinion, is like musky fishing. It's a fish of 10,000 casts. You may throw that bait 10,000 times, but that one time you catch a fish, it's going to be an absolute hammer. And that's what they're made for. These big baits are giant, and they're made to catch big, giant bass. I was reading that a bass eating something that is not as bony and doesn't have spines like a trout or a shad will eat something over half as long as its body length. Now think about that. Think about having a 10-pound bass being like 25 inches long, 26 inches long, maybe. That's a 13-inch bait, and with some thickness to it. Will fish eat bigger than that? Obviously. I've seen people throw 17, 18-inch swim baits and still catch fish on them. Giant things. Looks like muskie. They'll catch fish on them. But again, I think, in my opinion, when I'm bass fishing, I like to stack the odds, in my opinion, better on my side where I can catch more fish and be in contention to catch that bigger fish when I'm not catching smaller fish. So personally, I will throw those big baits if I'm fishing a tournament and I need a kicker or something. I got 5 little ones and I want to catch a big fish. I'm going to be throwing a big bait. Now, looking forward to the trip at Lake Fork. I know if I throw big baits down there, I have the opportunity to catch an absolute swamp donkey. Don't get me wrong. But I do think that you're taking the capabilities of catching fish out of there. Whereas if I throw one big bait all week and I catch one 10-pounder, would it be a success? Sure. Would it be miserable for me? Absolutely. Throwing that big giant bait, whether that be, a mag draft or a glide bait or something. You guys can't see it, but I got a big glide bait back here that I don't use because it was painted by a buddy of mine who passed away a few years ago, Scott Crabtree. But whether it be these big giant baits, I think I would much rather slim it down to like a 5-inch swim bait, something that I know I could catch a decent sized fish on, maybe even a dink on, but have the opportunity to catch a monster too. It does not, equate. Having big baits doesn't guarantee you're going to catch big bass. I've put in at Chester Frost several times, so maybe I do know exactly where you're at. Yeah, I know where it's at, Herb, now. I fished there, actually. Yeah, Fred, I don't know if you were on there a little while ago, but I sent out everything. I sent your stuff out today because the stuff was closed yesterday, but you'll be receiving your JB's Fish Sauce Pinch of Garlic here very soon, man. Appreciate the support, and congratulations for winning. But yeah, I'm going to go to Lake Fork, and I'm going to have fun, man. I'm not going to overthink it. I'm going to fish it just like I normally would. There's a bunch of stuff and things to throw at, whether that be trees, stumps. I'm hoping the lake is back up to normal. Apparently, it's not hurting the fishing population right now because you can see the pros down there getting absolutely jiggy with it. They're catching some absolute hammers. The issue is that we don't have the greatest graphs on Dusty's boat at the time. I am going to have a SD card with the boat lanes on there, which I'm happy about. And if the water's low, you pretty much can see where you're going to be able to run. But we're just trying not to break anything. So that's one of the biggest kind of anxiety points for me is I'm hoping the water level is up. And if we can navigate the lake, I have no doubt we're going to catch some fish. It is Lake Fork. Checking out some of the comments here, guys. Thanks for joining this episode of OnAnotherLine. Again, super humbled by the amount of support I've been shown this past month on YouTube. I thank you guys very much. Quick note, yesterday, I went fishing at Grayson Lake for the first time this year for the 2022 fishing season. President's Day, February 21st, 22, was probably the earliest I've ever caught a fish in my area. Mid-February, got some really, really nice weather around this area. On Sunday, it was 55, 58 degrees-ish. I was going to go out and do some fishing on Sunday. I determined that it was best for me to stay around my house and get things done while it was warm. I got some things taken care of outside. Again, I've been working on my garage, trying to get it set up to where I can actually start pouring baits and filming and stuff out there, and it doesn't look like a pigsty. I about got that done, so you guys are going to be seeing a lot more content from that out there. But I stayed home. Nate went out and shared some information with me. Water temperature on Grayson right now is anywhere from 38 to 43 degrees was the highest that I saw it when I left on Monday. The water temperature was actually about 3 degrees colder than he told me the day before. And I think that it has to do with the night temperature got down a lot lower than the meteorologist said it was going to. They said that the low was going to be 50 degrees. They overshot that by a bunch. When I woke up on Monday morning, it was 31 degrees out. So I waited till about 10 o'clock, went fishing. I threw every spring bait that I have in my boat at these fish, trying to get them to eat a moving bait. I threw the jackhammer. I threw the new Shimano World Minnow, which is going to be an absolute game changer in the clear water jerkbait market. That it has what's known as flash boost technology from Shimano, which has a couple of springs in there and a thin piece of metal. So when you jerk it, the bait stops. That actual spring and stuff still quivering in there and flashing the actual whatever lights available, and it's going to cause strikes, I think. So I threw the clown collar yesterday just because the water was really, really dingy. The clown collar is like a silver and has a red and yellow head to it. So I threw that for a while, never got bit on that. I threw a 3/4 ounce black and blue jig. I threw a 3/4 ounce green pumpkin jig. I like to throw the net bait pocket chunk crawler or the pocket chunk jig trailers on those things. I threw those things a lot yesterday, never got bit. I threw a couple crankbaits, couldn't get bit. So I got back into some riprap areas, and I just had to quit being hard-headed and realize that the fish weren't going to eat moving bait. So I literally, you'll see it on the video tomorrow when it's released, I literally got down in my rod box, pulled out a Ned rig on a spinning rod. I had a Ned crawl, a TRD Ned crawl on there that I had borrowed from Brandon Buckner on our last tournament in December, and it was still on my rod. I borrowed it from him again. I didn't have a single one of them on my boat. I had plenty of the Ned heads because I pour them again with the Do It Midwest, the weedless Midwest Finesse jig head. I sent some of those out to Randy, so I hope you catch some fish on them too. But the crawl is the only one I had. It's a green pumpkin crawl. I throw it out. There's a culvert coming out into Deer Creek, and it's pushing clear water, and it's super clear compared to the water around it. It's like you could almost see the bottom in this hole of clear water, which was a pretty cool phenomenon that was happening. So I threw this Ned rig right up in that hole of clear water in that culvert, and literally it hit the bottom, and I picked it up one time and got smoked, set the hook, about a 14, 15-inch bass on the very first cast with that Ned rig. So then I was like, okay, so I downsized my bait there. Anytime you're fishing really cold water, you definitely want to downsize your bait. I was just kind of, I guess, had that first trip out jitters, and I wanted to make sure that I was throwing bigger baits and stuff that I would throw in the springtime, like mid-April, and just wasn't working out. But that small Ned rig worked on that one fish, so I went back and fished that riprap bank, or it's really chunk rock more than anything, not riprap. It's big boulders and things. I fished up the bank one more time, threw that Ned rig all the way up, and on the way back, I ended up catching another fish on there. And I say it. No, I actually cut it out of the video because the video is super long. Like I said, it's about 30 minutes long, and I apologize for that. It's just a lot of stuff I was talking about during the video. But if I were in a tournament and I caught those two fish on that bank and I'd fished this entire Deer Creek without a single sniff, I probably would have stayed on that bank, and I would do what's known as stick and stay and make it pay. I would sit there all day long, and I was either going to catch fish and weigh them in, or I'm not going to catch anything. But I wasn't in a tournament, so I wanted to go out and try to find some more fish. But as I got out of Deer Creek and headed up towards the lake, I started fishing in between Bruin and Clifty Creek and some spots that I know. And the water clarity was half as good up the lake as it was in Deer Creek. I should have never left. But I didn't catch a single fish after that. I caught those two fish on that Ned rig. Water temperature back in the back of that creek where I thought would be a lot warmer. It was not. It was actually colder. The spot that I caught those two fish was 39 degrees, whereas around the marina was the warmest that I saw the water, and it was 43 degrees when I put my boat on the trailer about 4:30 yesterday. It was all in all a great trip. Again, the video will be released on YouTube tomorrow. You guys can take a look at it. through a bunch of different baits. I show you guys the World Minnow that is in the 115 size, so it's not a 110 jerk bait, it's a little larger. I feel like it's a very good happy medium between that 110 and that like a Jackal Re-Range. 110 is one of my favorite jerk baits on the planet. It will never be replaced. In my opinion, it's one of the best. Now comes in the Shimano World Minnow at the 115 size. However, the Jackal goes from a 110 to a 130. Guys, a 130 jerkbait, if you've never seen one, looks like an absolute monstrosity of a bait. There's a huge, I mean, a substantial difference between a 130 and a 110. So I like that 115 size is really good. I will tell you the World Minnow, from throwing it yesterday, you can cast that thing an absolute country mile. It has some kind of weight distribution system in it that allows you to cast it farther. It's not as crazy as the Jackal Re-Range. If you throw one, you know what I'm talking about. The Jackal Re-Range has a weight that moves back and forth in the bait. When you throw the bait, the Jackal Re-Range 110, it actually sounds like your line is going to snap every time you throw the bait. You don't hear that on the World Minnow, and you can actually cast the thing an absolute, country mile. I do know that I don't know if there's a difference in the price. Let's just check online to make sure. Yeah, so there's a decent amount of change in the price. So a Jackal Re-Range is about $13 to $15.99, depending on what website you buy it from. Looks like the cheapest is Midway, which is $13.99. But the World Minnow at the tackle box is $19.99. It's new bait. Do I think it's going to come down? Probably not. There's a lot of technology that goes into it. Will I throw it? Yes. I have one now. Am I going to say I'm going to go out and buy 100 of them? I don't know. It's a $20 price point. It's a lot of cash for a high school teacher. But I do have one. I like the way it worked yesterday. I like the action of it. It's suspended really nicely. It didn't have a really buoyant or sinking effect. It literally stayed where it was at. So you would get it to move, and it would stay literally there. It's rises ever so slightly. So if you're looking for a new jerk bait, definitely check out that Shimano World Minnow. I'm really excited to check out the Shimano Macbeth series. Hey, Randy. So I am partial to a casting rod and reel for a jerk bait. My favorite setup for a jerk bait is really any kind of reel you want, but you're going to want some kind of high-speed gear ratio, something like it. Definitely a 7, maybe an 8. I use a 7 because I use a rod that can be doubled for a lot of, can be added for a lot of different techniques. And I feel like if using an 8 gear ratio, you're handcuffing yourself to using that rod for only like top water or jerk bait or pitching and flipping, something that you can pick up a lot of line and not have it jerk it away from the fish's face or when they're eating it. So I have a 7 gear ratio. Matter of fact, my rod that I'm using right now has a what? I'm trying to think what reel it is, man. I always forget. It's definitely a Shimano Chronarch, and it is the Chronarch CI4 Plus. That's what it is. So it's the Chronarch CI4, several years old. Super light, one of the lightest reels that Shimano's ever had, but I have it paired right now with a Shimano Poison Adreno 1611 Medium Plus. Phenomenal jerkbait rod. It is absolutely one of the most versatile rods on the planet. Fairly expensive, looking at a $359. They actually just raised $20. They're like $379, I think. A lot of money for a rod. But jerkbait, in my opinion, you're going to need something like a medium heavy-ish. Medium, that's why I'm throwing that medium plus. A shorter rod is going to allow you to have better action. I'm throwing that 611, which is kind of literally on the longer end of things. 6.8 to 6.10 is probably what you're going to be looking at. Medium heavy. And again, a reel that will bring up a lot of slack. 7 to 8 gear ratio. But on the other hand, a spinning reel allows you to have a lot more action, in my opinion, because you can move that bait a lot more effectively and efficiently with a spinning rod. I just think that I don't get the proper hook set a lot of times with a jerk bait. A lot of times you jerk a jerk bait, and when you're on the pause, that's when a fish is going to eat it 9 times out of 10. And when I have a spinning rod in my hand, if I'm going to make that second jerk or whatever, on that jerk bait, I feel like that it loads up way too much for me to actually make sure I'm getting a good hook set. That's why I like a jerk bait on a casting rod. I see a lot of people doing it both ways. There is a ton of people that do. If you look at Ott Defoe, he throws anything like that on a spinning rod and has great success. So I think it's just all on what you like and all on, you know, how you like to fish it. Personally, for me, casting rod. Man, it's all good, buddy. You guys know I'm a Shimano and G Loomis guy, but I don't care what you're catching them on, as long as you're out there catching them, which is all good. But again, that 610 right there is going to be good. Perfect for that. So, all right, guys, we're at that magical 1 hour mark. You know what that means. We're going to be hopping off here in just a second. Again, I want to thank you guys for very much for giving me the support that you've given me on YouTube over the last month. It means a lot. As the differentiation in the analytics go, it looks like I'm going to hit that 4,000 subscriber mark. If you guys are going to be in the Greenville, South Carolina area, not this weekend, but next weekend, look me up at the Bassmaster Classic. I would love to meet up with you guys if you're going to be there. If not, you guys will be seeing videos daily of me down there. I'll be posting a video every day showing what's happening at the Classic, keeping you guys informed of some of the stuff that I see at the expos, maybe talking to some people. I always see Christian Corley from Yolotech down there, which reminds me, guys, I just got all the stuff in that I won on the Yolotech giveaway, which could not have happened without you guys. I got $550 worth of Yolotech products. I got the Boom. I got another one of the Yolotech juice boxes. I have the new Yolotech power stick that has a nav light on it. I'm going to be doing a review on that very soon. You guys will see that on the channel very soon. A couple of shirts, couple hats, some things that are going to be on the channel. You guys are going to see it. The cool thing about the Boom mount, if you're not familiar with that, normally the Yolotech stick will extend out to 53 inches on your nav port. Well, they have a mount that's called the Boom that actually fits in the secondary seat port, the rear seat port on a boat. And it actually will extend up to 8 feet in height. So I'm really excited to see that angle, looking down on the deck and seeing what happens when we actually catch fish, checking out the movement all around the boat, which I'm really really excited about. But again, thank you guys for that. That is going to be there. Everything's going to, you're going to be seeing that on the boat, taking a lot of that stuff to Lake Fork with me as well. So with that being said, guys, if you're going to be at the Classic, let me know. Love to meet up with you guys. I usually see some people down there like Ryan Love and a few other people down there, but I'd love to meet some people that I've never met before and definitely get to know you all better. But again, I thank you guys for the absolute support that I've had. Mark, you guys are amazing. Means a lot to me. But if you guys want to see a video produced that you think I can handle, drop the comment either on, shoot me a message on Facebook. If you guys, want to add me on my personal Facebook, is fine. Again, my name is Tyler Waller. That's WALLER. You can definitely follow OnAnotherLine on Facebook. That's a really good way to get a hold of me as well. Shoot me a message there. I will tell you, OnAnotherLine, you're probably better apt to get a response from me as opposed to directly messaging my personal Facebook page or account, because I have like 4,000 people or 3,500 on my personal Facebook account, and it just gets absolute overwhelming, the amount of comments and stuff I get, not only from local people but other people too. So if you want to get a hold of me, the best thing to do is like OnAnotherLine on Facebook. You can obviously message me through YouTube as well. Comment on one of my videos. I'll see them. I try my best to message and to reply to every comment that I get, unless they're heckling me, and then I comment double on those because, why not? But anyway, guys, if you're at the Classic, we'll see you down there. We'll see you guys live next Tuesday. And after that, we're going to be talking about the Bassmaster Classic. I'm not sure what days the practice is. I wanted to get Matt Robertson on this week. I just didn't have time to message him, and I didn't want to message him day of today. So it wasn't him doing that. I didn't message him. But anyway, guys, appreciate the support. Thank you guys for joining this episode of On Another Line. And if you like my videos, give it a share, especially from the YouTube side of things. Pushing for that 4,000 subscriber mark. Got the new Poison Tail Jig mold ready to go. Be pouring some of these things up tomorrow. New video on YouTube about the fishing trip this weekend coming out tomorrow at 8 o'clock in the morning. Till next time, guys, if you can, get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line.